Every meal begins an extraordinary journey inside your body, and that journey starts in the mouth. Although eating feels simple and natural, countless structures immediately begin working together with perfect coordination. The moment food enters the mouth, your digestive system becomes active. The lips help keep the food inside, while the tongue carefully positions each bite between the teeth. Your teeth are specially designed for different tasks. The front incisors slice food into smaller pieces, making it easier to handle. The pointed canine teeth tear tougher foods into manageable portions. Behind them, the premolars and molars perform the most important job by crushing and grinding food into tiny particles. This process is known as mechanical digestion, and it is the very first stage of digestion. Breaking food into smaller pieces increases its total surface area, allowing digestive enzymes to work much more efficiently during the next stages. At the same time, 3 major pairs of salivary glands begin releasing saliva into the mouth. These include the parotid glands located near the ears, the submandibular glands beneath the jaw, and the sublingual glands found under the tongue. Together, they produce enough saliva to keep the mouth moist while helping digestion begin. Saliva is not just water. It contains mucus that lubricates food, minerals that protect the teeth, antibacterial substances that help reduce harmful bacteria, and digestive enzymes that immediately start breaking down nutrients. One of the most important enzymes is salivary amylase, which begins converting complex starches into smaller sugar molecules even before the food reaches the stomach. As chewing continues, the tongue constantly moves the food from one side of the mouth to the other. Every movement ensures that all pieces are evenly mixed with saliva. The jaw muscles work rhythmically, generating powerful forces that crush even firm foods into tiny fragments. The food gradually changes from dry, uneven pieces into a soft, moist mass. This newly formed mass is called a food bolus. The bolus has the perfect texture and consistency to travel safely through the digestive tract without causing discomfort. Proper chewing is one of the most important yet often overlooked parts of healthy digestion. When food is chewed thoroughly, the stomach does not need to work as hard to break it down further. Digestive enzymes can reach more of the food's surface, improving nutrient absorption later inside the small intestine. By the end of this first stage, the tongue gently gathers the moist bolus and pushes it toward the back of the mouth. This movement prepares the body for the next step, swallowing. Although you may still feel completely in control, your body is now ready to activate an automatic sequence of muscular movements that will carry the food from the mouth into the esophagus, beginning the next remarkable chapter of the digestive journey. Once the food has been thoroughly chewed and mixed with saliva, it is transformed into a smooth, moist bolus that is ready to leave the mouth. The tongue now takes control of the final voluntary action of this stage. With a gentle but precise movement, it presses the bolus against the roof of the mouth and pushes it toward the back of the throat. This marks the beginning of swallowing, a process known medically as deglutition. Although swallowing begins as a voluntary action, it quickly becomes an automatic reflex controlled by the brain and nervous system. As the food reaches the pharynx, also called the throat, an extraordinary sequence of events takes place within a fraction of a second. The brain receives signals from sensory nerves that detect the presence of the food bolus. Instantly, multiple muscles begin working together in perfect coordination to ensure that food travels safely toward the stomach instead of entering the lungs. This reflex is so fast and accurate that most people never even notice it happening. One of the most important protective structures involved in swallowing is the epiglottis. This small, flexible flap of cartilage sits just above the entrance to the windpipe, or trachea. During normal breathing, the epiglottis remains upright, allowing air to move freely into the lungs. However, during swallowing, it folds downward like a protective lid, covering the opening of the trachea. This simple but essential action prevents food and liquid from entering the respiratory system. Instead, the bolus is safely directed into the esophagus, the muscular tube leading to the stomach. If even a tiny amount of food accidentally enters the airway, the body immediately activates the cough reflex. A powerful cough helps expel the foreign material before it can travel deeper into the lungs. This natural defense mechanism protects the respiratory system from choking and infection. As the bolus enters the esophagus, circular and longitudinal muscles surrounding the tube prepare for the next phase of digestion. These muscles begin producing rhythmic wave-like contractions called peristalsis. Unlike gravity alone, peristalsis actively pushes the food downward, allowing swallowing to work even if a person is lying flat or standing upside down. Each contraction squeezes behind the bolus while the muscles in front relax, creating a smooth, controlled movement toward the stomach. The entire swallowing process usually takes only a few seconds, yet it requires the perfect coordination of dozens of muscles and several cranial nerves. Every movement is precisely timed to protect the airway while ensuring that food continues its journey through the digestive system without interruption. By the end of this stage, the bolus has safely entered the esophagus, where powerful muscular contractions will carry it steadily toward the stomach, preparing it for the next important phase of digestion. After leaving the throat, the food bolus enters the esophagus, a strong muscular tube approximately 25 centimeters, or about 10 inches long. Although it may look like a simple passageway, the esophagus is an active organ that plays a vital role in moving food safely from the mouth to the stomach. Unlike a hollow pipe where food simply falls downward, the esophagus uses carefully coordinated muscle contractions to transport every bite with remarkable precision. The walls of the esophagus are made up of powerful layers of smooth muscle arranged in circular and longitudinal patterns. As soon as the bolus enters the upper part of the esophagus, these muscles begin producing rhythmic, wave-like contractions known as peristalsis. Each wave starts behind the food, squeezing it forward, while the muscles ahead relax to create an open pathway. This coordinated movement gently but effectively pushes the bolus toward the stomach. One fascinating fact about peristalsis is that it does not depend on gravity. Even if a person is lying flat, bending over, or even hanging upside down, the esophagus can still move food into the stomach. This demonstrates how powerful and efficient the muscular contractions are. The nervous system carefully controls every contraction, ensuring that each wave is perfectly timed and strong enough to move the food without causing damage to the delicate lining of the esophagus. Inside the esophagus, special mucus-producing glands continuously release a slippery secretion. This mucus coats the inner lining, reducing friction and allowing the food bolus to glide smoothly through the tube. The moist surface also protects the tissues from injury as larger pieces of food pass by. Every swallow is a coordinated event involving the brain, nerves, muscles, and protective secretions working together in perfect harmony. As the bolus continues its journey downward, it passes behind the heart and between the lungs before reaching the diaphragm, the large muscle that separates the chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. The esophagus travels through a small opening in the diaphragm known as the esophageal hiatus, allowing it to connect directly with the stomach. At the lower end of the esophagus lies an important ring of muscle called the lower esophageal sphincter, often abbreviated as the LES. Under normal conditions, this muscular valve remains tightly closed to prevent the acidic contents of the stomach from flowing backward into the esophagus. As the food bolus approaches, the sphincter senses its arrival and begins to relax. Within moments, it opens just enough to allow the food to enter the stomach safely immediately. After the bolus passes through, the sphincter closes again, creating a protective barrier against acid reflux. This final step completes the journey through the esophagus. The food has now reached the entrance of the stomach, where powerful digestive acids, enzymes, and muscular movements are ready to begin the next major stage. As the food bolus reaches the end of the esophagus, it arrives at a specialized muscular valve known as the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES. This circular ring of muscle acts like a secure gateway between the esophagus and the stomach. Normally, it remains tightly closed to prevent the highly acidic contents of the stomach from flowing backward. As the bolus approaches, the sphincter briefly relaxes and opens, allowing the food to pass into the stomach. Immediately afterward, it closes again, creating a protective seal that helps prevent acid reflux and keeps digestion moving in the correct direction. The stomach is a remarkable muscular organ shaped like a curved pouch in the upper left side of the abdomen. Although many people think of it as simply a storage bag for food, it actually performs several essential digestive functions. As soon as food enters, the stomach begins stretching to accommodate the meal. Its flexible walls allow it to expand significantly without creating excessive internal pressure, making room for both food and liquids. Embedded within the inner lining of the stomach are millions of tiny gastric glands. These microscopic glands immediately begin releasing a powerful mixture of digestive substances, collectively known as gastric juice. One of the main components is hydrochloric acid, a very strong acid with a pH of around 1.5 to 3.5. This acidic environment kills many harmful bacteria and microorganisms that may have entered with the food, providing an important layer of protection for the body. The acid also unfolds complex proteins, making them easier for digestive enzymes to break apart. At the same time, specialized cells release pepsinogen, an inactive enzyme that is converted into pepsin when it comes into contact with hydrochloric acid. Pepsin begins breaking large protein molecules into much smaller peptide fragments, marking the first major step in protein digestion. Other gastric secretions, including mucus, coat the stomach lining and protect it from being damaged by its own acid. Without this protective mucus layer, the stomach could digest its own tissues. While these chemical reactions take place, the stomach's thick muscular walls begin contracting in powerful rhythmic waves. These contractions churn, squeeze, and mix the food with gastric juice, turning the partially digested meal into a smooth, semi-liquid mixture. Every movement ensures that the food is evenly exposed to acid and enzymes, allowing digestion to occur more efficiently. As digestion continues over the next several hours, the original food gradually loses its solid form. The stomach transforms it into a creamy, semi-fluid substance known as chyme. This nutrient-rich mixture is now prepared for the next stage of digestion. Rather than emptying all at once, the stomach carefully controls the release of chyme, sending only small amounts at a time toward the first part of the small intestine, where digestion and nutrient absorption will continue. After spending several hours inside the stomach, the food has been transformed into a smooth, semi-liquid mixture known as chyme. At this stage, digestion inside the stomach is far from complete. Instead, the stomach carefully prepares the chyme for its journey into the small intestine, where most chemical digestion and nearly all nutrient absorption will take place. The stomach does not release all of its contents at once. Instead, it controls the movement with remarkable precision, ensuring that the intestine receives only small amounts of chyme at a time. This circular muscle acts as a highly regulated gateway between the stomach and the duodenum, the first section of the small intestine. Most of the time, the pyloric sphincter remains tightly closed, allowing the stomach enough time to continue mixing food with acid and digestive enzymes. Every few moments, however, the sphincter relaxes briefly and opens just enough to allow a small amount of chyme to pass through. This controlled release prevents the small intestine from becoming overloaded and gives it enough time to process the incoming material efficiently. As the acidic chyme enters the duodenum, it immediately triggers an entirely new phase of digestion. Cells lining the duodenum detect the presence of the acidic mixture and release important digestive hormones, including secretin and cholecystokinine, commonly known as CCK. These hormones travel through the bloodstream and send signals to nearby digestive organs, coordinating their activities with remarkable precision. In response to these hormonal signals, the pancreas begins releasing pancreatic juice-containing powerful digestive enzymes. These enzymes are capable of breaking down carbohydrates into simple sugars, proteins into amino acids, and fats into fatty acids and glycerol. At the same time, the pancreas releases bicarbonate ions, which help neutralize the highly acidic chyme arriving from the stomach. This creates the ideal environment for pancreatic enzymes to function effectively without damaging the delicate lining of the intestine. Meanwhile, the liver continuously produces bile, a digestive fluid that is stored and concentrated inside the gallbladder. When fatty food enters the duodenum, the gallbladder contracts and releases bile through the bile duct. Bile does not digest fat directly, but it breaks large fat droplets into tiny droplets through a process called emulsification. This dramatically increases the surface area available for digestive enzymes, allowing fats to be broken down much more efficiently. By the end of this stage, the chyme has entered the duodenum and is being mixed with bile, pancreatic enzymes, and intestinal secretions. The digestive process has now reached one of its most important phases, where the body prepares to absorb the essential nutrients needed for energy, growth, repair, and every vital function that keeps us alive. Inside the duodenum, digestion becomes even more advanced as several digestive fluids work together to break food into nutrients. The body can absorb the acidic chyme arriving from the stomach immediately mixes with alkaline pancreatic juice, bile from the liver and gallbladder, and digestive secretions produced by the intestinal lining. Each fluid has a specific role, and together, they create the perfect environment for efficient digestion. The pancreas releases several powerful enzymes into the duodenum. Pancreatic amylase continues the digestion of carbohydrates by converting complex starches into simple sugars. Proteases, including trypsin and chymotrypsin, continue breaking proteins into smaller peptides and eventually into individual amino acids. Another important enzyme, pancreatic lipase, begins digesting fats. However, lipase works effectively only after bile has broken large fat droplets into much smaller droplets. This process, called emulsification, greatly increases the surface area available for enzyme action, allowing fats to be digested much faster. The walls of the small intestine also produce their own digestive enzymes. These enzymes complete the final stages of digestion by converting remaining carbohydrates into glucose, proteins into amino acids, and fats into fatty acids and glycerol. By this point, nearly every large food molecule has been reduced to tiny nutrient particles that are small enough to pass through the intestinal wall. As digestion continues, gentle muscular contractions called segmentation movements mix the chyme repeatedly with digestive juices. Unlike peristalsis, which pushes food forward, segmentation mainly stirs the intestinal contents back and forth. This constant mixing ensures that every particle of food comes into contact with digestive enzymes, improving the efficiency of digestion. The environment inside the duodenum is carefully regulated. The bicarbonate released by the pancreas neutralizes the stomach acid, protecting the intestinal lining from damage while maintaining an ideal pH for digestive enzymes. Without this neutralization, the acid from the stomach could injure the delicate tissues of the intestine and reduce the effectiveness of enzyme activity. By the end of this stage, digestion is almost complete. Carbohydrates have become glucose, proteins have become amino acids, and fats have been converted into fatty acids and glycerol. These simple nutrient molecules are now ready for the next crucial phase of digestion, absorption. In the following section of the small intestine, millions of tiny finger-like structures called villi and microvilli will capture these nutrients and transport them into the bloodstream, allowing every cell in the body to receive the energy and building blocks it needs to survive and function properly. Now that food has been completely broken down into tiny nutrient molecules, the digestive system enters one of its most important stages, absorption. This process takes place mainly in the jejunum and ileum, the middle and final sections of the small intestine. Although the small intestine is only a few centimeters wide, it measures nearly 6 meters in length. Its inner surface is specially designed to maximize nutrient absorption. The inside of the small intestine is covered with millions of tiny finger-like projections called villi. Each villus is lined with even smaller microscopic structures known as microvilli, forming what scientists call the brush border. Together, these structures increase the surface area of the intestine to an astonishing extent, providing enough space to absorb nearly all the nutrients from digested food. If the small intestine were completely unfolded, its total surface area would be comparable to that of a tennis court. Inside every villus is a network of tiny blood capillaries and a specialized lymphatic vessel called a lacteal. Different nutrients follow different pathways into the body: glucose, amino acids, water-soluble vitamins, minerals, and most water. Molecules pass directly through the intestinal cells into the blood capillaries. From there, they travel through the hepatic portal vein to the liver, where nutrients are processed, stored, or distributed according to the body's needs. Fats follow a different route. Fatty acids and glycerol enter the intestinal cells, where they are reassembled into tiny particles called chylomicrons. These particles are too large to enter the blood capillaries directly, so they move into the lacteals instead. The lymphatic system transports them through lymph vessels before they eventually enter the bloodstream near the heart. This unique pathway allows fats to be distributed efficiently throughout the body. Water absorption also plays a major role during this stage. Large amounts of water move through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream, helping maintain the body's fluid balance. Essential minerals such as calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, and iron are absorbed through specialized transport systems, ensuring that bones, muscles, nerves, and every organ receive the nutrients required for normal function. The efficiency of nutrient absorption depends on the health of the intestinal lining. Healthy villi and microvilli provide an enormous surface area, allowing the body to extract nearly every useful nutrient from food. Damage to these structures can significantly reduce nutrient absorption and lead to deficiencies over time. By the end of this stage, the majority of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, and water have successfully entered the body's circulation. The nutrients are now on their way to nourish trillions of cells, while the small amount of undigested material continues its journey toward the large intestine, where the final phase of digestion will begin. After most nutrients have been absorbed in the small intestine, the remaining material continues through the ileocecal valve and enters the large intestine, also known as the colon. Although digestion is nearly complete, the large intestine still performs several essential functions that are vital for maintaining overall health. The material entering the colon contains indigestible food fibers, water, electrolytes, dead cells, mucus, and billions of microorganisms that naturally live inside the digestive tract. Unlike the small intestine, the large intestine produces very few digestive enzymes. Instead, its primary responsibility is to recover water and essential minerals from the remaining intestinal contents. As the material slowly moves through the cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid colon, the walls of the intestine continuously absorb water into the bloodstream. This gradual process transforms the liquid-like intestinal contents into a more solid form. Electrolytes such as sodium and chloride are also reabsorbed during this stage. These minerals play an important role in maintaining the body's fluid balance, blood pressure, nerve function, and muscle activity. By recovering water and electrolytes, the large intestine helps prevent dehydration and ensures that valuable resources are not lost from the body. Another remarkable feature of the colon is its enormous population of beneficial microorganisms, collectively known as the gut microbiome. Trillions of bacteria live peacefully inside the large intestine, forming one of the most complex microbial ecosystems in the human body. Rather than causing disease, many of these bacteria provide important health benefits. They ferment undigested dietary fiber that human digestive enzymes cannot break down. During this fermentation process, the bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids, which serve as an important energy source for the cells, lining the colon and contribute to maintaining a healthy intestinal environment. These beneficial bacteria also help produce certain vitamins, including vitamin K and several B vitamins, which can be absorbed and used by the body. In addition, the gut microbiome helps prevent harmful bacteria from multiplying, supports the immune system, and contributes to overall digestive health. As water continues to be absorbed, the remaining waste becomes increasingly compact. Gentle muscular contractions, called haustral movements and occasional mass movements, slowly push the forming feces through the length of the colon. This movement is much slower than in the small intestine, allowing enough time for maximum water absorption. By the end of this stage, nearly all usable water and electrolytes have been recovered. Beneficial bacteria have completed their role in fermenting leftover fiber, and the remaining waste has been transformed into solid feces. As the waste material completes its journey through the large intestine, it enters the rectum, the final storage chamber of the digestive system. By this stage, almost all useful nutrients, water, and electrolytes have already been absorbed. What remains is a compact mixture of indigestible food fibers, dead intestinal cells, bacteria, mucus, and other waste products that the body no longer needs. The rectum is a flexible, muscular structure designed to temporarily store feces until the body is ready to eliminate them. Under normal conditions, the rectum remains relatively empty. However, as new waste enters from the sigmoid colon, its walls begin to stretch gradually. Embedded within these walls are specialized stretch receptors that constantly monitor the amount of stored waste. When the rectum becomes sufficiently full, These receptors send nerve impulses through the spinal cord to the brain. The brain interprets these signals as the natural urge to have a bowel movement. This communication between the digestive system and the nervous system allows the body to coordinate waste elimination at an appropriate time and place. At the lower end of the rectum are two important circular muscles, known as the internal anal sphincter and the external anal sphincter. The internal sphincter is made of smooth muscle and functions automatically, without conscious control. When the rectum fills, this muscle begins to relax as part of the normal defecation reflex. The external sphincter, however, is composed of skeletal muscle and is under voluntary control. This allows a person to delay a bowel movement until it is socially appropriate. The pelvic floor muscles also play a vital role during this stage. These muscles support the rectum and surrounding organs while helping maintain continence. Proper coordination between the rectum, sphincters, pelvic floor muscles, and nervous system ensures that waste is stored safely until elimination is possible. If the bowel movement is delayed, the colon may continue absorbing small amounts of water from the stored feces. As a result, the stool can become firmer and drier, making it more difficult to pass later. This is why maintaining regular bowel habits, adequate hydration, and sufficient dietary fiber is important for healthy digestion. By the end of this stage, the rectum has successfully stored the waste material, the nervous system has signaled the brain, and the body is fully prepared for the final step of the digestive process, the controlled elimination of waste through the anus, completing the remarkable journey that began with the very first bite of food. The final stage of the digestive process is known as defecation, the body's natural method of removing waste that can no longer be used. After nutrients, water, vitamins, and minerals have been absorbed, the remaining material has fulfilled its purpose. Eliminating this waste is essential for maintaining a healthy digestive system and preserving the body's internal balance. When the time is appropriate, the brain sends signals back to the rectum and the muscles surrounding the anus. The rectal muscles begin to contract gently, increasing pressure on the stored waste. At the same time, the internal anal sphincter, which operates automatically, relaxes. The external anal sphincter, controlled voluntarily, also relaxes when a person consciously decides to empty the bowels. The pelvic floor muscles coordinate with these actions, allowing waste to pass smoothly through the anal canal and out of the body. During defecation, the abdominal muscles and diaphragm often contract together, increasing pressure within the abdominal cavity. This additional pressure assists the rectum in expelling waste efficiently, while minimizing strain. Under healthy conditions, this process occurs naturally and usually takes only a short time to complete. Once the waste has been eliminated, the rectum becomes empty and its walls return to their normal resting position. The anal sphincters close again, restoring continence until the next bowel movement. Meanwhile, the large intestine continues receiving new material from the small intestine, and the digestive cycle begins once again with every meal we eat. A healthy digestive system depends on several important lifestyle habits. Eating a balanced diet rich in fiber supports normal bowel movements and nourishes beneficial gut bacteria. Drinking enough water helps keep stools soft and easy to pass. Regular physical activity stimulates intestinal movement, reducing the risk of constipation. Maintaining a healthy gut microbiome also contributes to efficient digestion, strong immunity, and overall well-being. From the very first bite of food in the mouth to the final elimination of waste, the digestive system performs an extraordinary sequence of precisely coordinated events: teeth, saliva, the esophagus, stomach, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus all work together as one integrated system. Every organ has a specialized role, ensuring that food is transformed into energy, essential nutrients are delivered to trillions of cells, and unwanted waste is safely removed. This remarkable process takes place every single day, sustaining life through the incredible efficiency and precision of the human digestive system.